How many orders of protection, emergency orders of protection, I believe is what we're talking about, expire without the defendant being, I guess, put in a permanent order?
That data, I would be very interested in being able to compile that data. It is not publicly available.
So is there anything in your bill, and a previous speaker talked about not being concerned about victims of domestic violence, which isn't true, by the way. But we're also concerned about the rights of an individual and their property. So if an individual is not purported to be an abuser, but it turns out that that's not the case, that this is unfounded, is there anything in your bill that ensures that they get their guns back in a timely fashion, returned?
That is already in the current Domestic Violence Act. We are not touching that part.
What is that then, please? Because I'm unfamiliar.
They would show up with their valid FOID card, and their weapons would be returned to them. If they do not have a valid FOID card, they may even show up with someone at the end of their order, and if it has been unfounded, they may show up with someone else with a valid FOID card, and their weapons can be turned over to that person.
Pardon?
Then you're just transferring them at the end of the 2 years. Why not do it on the front end?
All right, I'm a little distracted. I apologize. So if a person is charged with domestic violence and gotten an emergency order of protection against an abuser, alleged abuser, and that emergency order of protection then goes back for adjudication and is unfounded, all of the person has to do is show up with somebody with a FOID card, because they're not going to have their FOID card. It was taken as soon as the order was written, and the Illinois State Police then revokes or suspends their FOID card. So all they have to do is bring someone into court with a FOID card, and they can get their weapons transferred to that individual. The sheriff then must give those weapons back to someone with a valid FOID card.
Let me understand that you're talking about an order that has expired, so it's no longer...
It's an emergency order that allowed the judge...
The emergency order is no longer valid.
Right.
It was unfounded.
Correct.
Then that is what is in current law today, yes.
So all I have to do is show up with someone, and I have a FOID card, and the judge is going to give me their weapons.
I have answered that question.
So why not allow
Representative, would you like additional time?
Somebody want to do
Representative Wilhauer.
Fine, thank you. I won't take the full 3 minutes. I appreciate it. So why not allow that to happen immediately on the front end?
Because immediately there is danger to the survivor and their family. What you are talking about is the danger is no longer there. The order is no longer standing. It has been unfounded. So in your situation, we follow the current law.
But this is what confuses me. Because as soon as someone's FOID card is suspended, they have to dispose of their guns immediately. As soon as my FOID card would be suspended, I have to get rid of any guns. And I have to give them to someone who, in the current law, says I cannot have access to. I can't give it to my wife and just say, hey, here's the form, I gave it to my wife, but I still have access to the code, to the safe, or the guns are still in the house. I mean, the law is very clear that when a person loses their FOID card, they must immediately dispose of any guns they have. Under this, as you heard from Sheriff Tipsword, you have 48 hours. And then if you don't do it, you could have another who knows how long. Wouldn't it be better to allow the transfer, immediate transfer, out of my possession, immediately.
You wouldn't know unless you were served. You need to be served with the order.
But
And you are not there during the.
I understand. But when a person's FOID card is suspended, what action do the Illinois State Police take?
This bill is not speaking to that. That is already in statute.
I understand. No, I understand that. But it's the process that we're talking about. And we're trying to, I guess, help you understand that there is a better way to do this. There is a better way to protect victims of domestic violence. We're trying to make this better.
Representative, this bill was driven by the experiences and knowledge of victims of domestic violence, the folks who are intimately involved in this process.
But
and I will let them
but it's
speak
not
for the
driven by
policy.
law enforcement. It's not driven by people who have experience with how guns are transferred and how things are handled. You're imposing something that needs to be made better. And this is a flawed system. Mr. Speaker, to the bill.
The bill.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, this part of this bill is not going to do what needs to be done to protect victims from an abuser who has a gun. We can make this better. We can do this by demanding that the current law be followed, that immediately that weapon, a gun, all guns, immediately transferred to an independent party so that the abuser would not have access to them. There's also nothing in this bill that demands that these weapons, these guns, be cared for. There's nothing that protects someone from getting or makes it sure that someone is going to get their guns back if they are adjudicated to be innocent. We need to do a better job of protecting victims of domestic violence. This isn't it, and I urge a no vote.